Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us again. Today we have Arbender Robinson, who is a veteran Broadway actor. He made his debut in Hairspray, and he's been in lots of different shows, including Disney's The Little Mermaid and The Lion King. He's been in Hair, Ragtime, Les Mis, and a number of others. And he's also been involved with some film and TV roles, and he does teaching work as well. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for getting up so early in the morning to actually make this happen. So I'm excited.
Somehow I can't sleep, and I wake up early most times. I wish I could sleep in, but
Perfect. I grew up in like this small farming town in Illinois, so I'm up at the crack of dawn every day anyway. So yeah, that hasn't gone away. So it's good. Like this is my best hour. So there you go.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's interesting though, because as an actor, a lot of your work is done at night, late, so.
Yeah, most of it's done late at night. But I've learned how to take a nap or go to sleep whenever my body tells me I need to. So whether it's a 5-minute nap or an hour nap or a 2-hour nap or a 3-hour nap like I took yesterday, yeah, if I need sleep, I just get it. And yeah, just kind of keep working from there, but I still get
awesome. That might be a question later. How do actors be able to easily take naps? But let's go into this. Tell us a little bit about your acting career. How did you get into acting? And you can go back. I mean, even like when you were really young, just a little bit of background on yourself. But then, what would you say, like one or two of the biggest accomplishments that you're most proud of have been?
Wow, this is an interesting question because I try really hard not to really speak so much about myself. It's strange. I celebrate my accomplishments, but I celebrate my accomplishments by celebrating the help that I receive from the people around me. So instead of just talking about myself, it's really about celebrating all those people that helped me get here.
Oh, yeah.
There are lots of them. So how did I get started into acting? It's really tricky because it's not like most people say, hey, I saw Brigadoon when I was 8 years old, and I said to my mother, hey, I want to be up on that stage, and that's kind of the journey they went on. For me, theater in the beginning was part of kind of like therapy because I was a shy kid that didn't like to laugh. I had really, really poor communication skills, and all I wanted to do was sit in my bedroom and read a book. And my mother kind of forced me to try this theater thing, really just as a way for me to meet other kids and force me to communicate with other people. And I hated it, but she made me do it. And I also had a stutter, which you'll probably hear during this interview as well. And it was also a way for me to really work on that stuttering problem. So it was really therapy for me. And that started at about third grade. Then in 8th grade, we moved a few blocks down the street and ended up moving me into a new school district. And that was horrible. And I really wasn't doing so well in school, but for extra credit, I was able to do a play at school because we were introducing this new program called DARE, which that just tells you how old I am. So I did that play, and I played this student that just had like anger management issues and decided to turn to drinking. It was this whole thing. Anyways, that seemed really, really cool. So I continued doing theater in high school, and then at the last minute decided to do theater in college, and that kind of began the journey there. But I wasn't one of those students that said, hey, theater is what I want to do, and then I went on the journey to actually do theater from the beginning. It was just kind of something that kind of happened and fell into my lap, and it was something that I ended up being kind of good at, and I enjoyed doing it, and it challenged me in my personal life. So that challenge is kind of what kept me doing it. And then when it came time to go to college, there was this school that had a theater program in the middle of Wisconsin that no one had ever heard of. And they reached out to me and kind of accepted me into their program. And I was like, well, okay, I guess I'll do theater. And luckily for me, it kind of worked out and turned out to be the best decision of my life. So now I'm here where I am now. So that answers a question about how I kind of got into theater and what that journey was. And then the other question, what was the other part of the question was what
Well, it was just like, what would you say are one or two of your biggest accomplishments so far? And sort of like, what factors do you think contributed most to you being able to accomplish those things? I know that there's a lot of it about luck, and we don't like to, talk about ourselves, but actors do want to know, like, what role were you able to play in helping make certain things happen? Because this kind of gives them information on what they might be able to do.
Awesome. So the first accomplishment, honestly, was finishing school. I'm not gonna lie, it was still looking back, it seemed like an impossible task because when I got to college, I was far behind. I didn't have a huge theater program in high school that gave me all this information. So I got to college, and not only was I learning the information they were teaching me in university, but I was also playing catch up, trying to figure out, well, what is a monologue that I called a monochrome? Because I had no idea. Like all these things that seem like basic knowledge, I had none of that. So it was a struggle. It was a huge struggle, and I spent most of my time in practice rooms and in libraries. So finishing school, honestly, was a huge accomplishment, and that helped. And then the other thing was I kind of had to become kind of a jerk and not take no for an answer. So because I was so far behind in school, a lot of the people on my left and right really told me, dude, you're not gonna do this. Like, it's not gonna happen. You're so far behind. And I was. And I just told myself, hey, I decided that I'm gonna do this. So this is what I'm going to do. And I just have to figure out what all the barriers are, what are all the benchmarks that I need to check off, and then I just have to make them happen. And that has kind of been my mantra since 1994 when I started university until now. So whereas some people will say, oh, this casting director said no, or oh, this project has already cast their actors, I took a different approach, and my job was, hey, you know what, I need to work. And I know that there are companies all over the country and all over the world that are looking for people, and some of them have to be looking for me. So I did the hard method of like contacting companies and finding out what shows they're doing, and then reaching out specifically for those shows, and not just waiting for those auditions to come, but essentially being my own agent and my own manager, and just really making those connections and calling people and writing people and sending emails and mailing headshots and resumes and like doing all of that difficult grunt work. And that kind of paid off, because by the time I graduated university in 1998, I had already booked myself for 1 full year of work already just by doing mailings. And then I went on that journey of just hitting those big regional audition conferences like SCTCs and UPTAs and ERDAs and all of those, and then started booking myself for a year at a time. So my first 3 or 4 years out of college, looking back, seemed easy because at the beginning of the year, I knew what I was doing for the entire year and where I was going. So then it gave me a year to figure out what I was then going to do for the next year. And although I was a nomad and I was popping around from city to city and company to company, I was constantly working and constantly building my resume and constantly meeting people. And then that's what kind of paid off, because by the time I decided to come to New York, which was many years later, the first audition I walked into, the associate director on that project was like, oh my goodness, I saw you in this show and you were in that show with my partner. I've seen your work. Are you in New York now? And I was like, dude, I'm here. So it became like this really easy transition because I made all of these connections along the way. And casting directors were excited when they saw my resume, because they were like, dude, how in the world have you done this much work in this short amount of time? And I was like, yeah, I've been really busy. And to this day, knock on wood, I have yet to be unemployed as an actor, because my goal was, if I'm going to be an actor, my goal is to make my living as an actor. So I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have, a side job and all of that kind of good stuff until later in my career. But in the beginning, it was like, I have to be an actor. That's what I have to do. I have to figure out what sacrifices I have to make emotionally and personally and financially to make that happen, and just do it. So doing that kind of helped. So I hope that also answers the second part of that question. Yeah, I could ramble on for hours, but essentially I took that route of hitting those audition conferences and trying to book myself far in advance. And if I'm doing a production of show A, I would then go to my theater resource, find any other theater that's doing show A, and I would write them a letter and send them a postcard and just be like, hey, I'm doing this show currently. I see that you're also doing this show. I would love to take the knowledge I've learned here doing it and then apply it to your production of the show and see what different take you want to put on the show. So they already knew that I would come in completely off book and then just ready to learn their version of the show. And I would do that for any show that I was in, find every company I could find that was doing that show, and I would reach out to them directly in hopes that they would put me in that show. And once I'm there, hopefully they'll like me and then want to put me in other shows. That was kind of the goal. So I also sought out to do shows that, multiple companies were doing. Like right now, everyone's doing Mamma Mia and everyone's doing Newsies. And it's like, everyone's now doing Little Shop of Horrors again. So it's like, those shows, I need to get into one of them so I can then reach out to every company that's doing it and be like, I know it. Let me come and do it your way, So yeah, so that hopefully that answers the full question.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, that's so smart, and it's it's kind of like in the business sense, you want to find sort of like your ideal client and then look for more clients who are just like that and market to them, find where they are. So in your case, you found a show that you really enjoyed doing, and then because you were in it, it made it much easier to start reaching out to all of the places that were doing that same show, book yourself, or at least like go to the auditions, and they're already like, well, this person knows this role perfectly. So you went out and started booking and getting constant work, and it made it easier for you to sort of like, because of those credits and stuff, start expanding into other other shows that were either similar or different, but you didn't have that like hunger for money and that feeling of desperation because you didn't have like stuff going on. So almost like theoretically any actor could kind of like be in a production for free first, and then find all the places that are doing it for maybe like paid, reach out to them and start booking like shows that way. And it works really well for shows because there's a lot of places that are doing the same show, whereas like a film, it might not work. It's a little bit of a different process for that.
Right. And then financially for some companies, it worked out well too, because, hey, so I'm doing this show. It closes on this day. I see that you start rehearsals on this day. So how about I come in 3 days later or a week later because I'm already off book. And then when you get to staging and blocking and all that stuff, then I'm there, and then you saved a week's salary for someone, and then you can come in later. I mean, I was trying every like business tactic avenue to make me seem like the hot commodity that they needed to have in their show.
It's so cool.
Yeah, it kind of worked out, but I didn't come up with this idea on my own. Like, these were the things that I was actually taught in my training program, like different ideas and tactics and ways to kind of find work and keep working and build your brand and build your business. So yeah, I had this like business of the business class, which every single major and minor in a performance field had to take every semester. It met every Friday from 3 to 5. Everyone had to take it. It was a 1-credit class. I mean, it put us all over our course load. We all had to pay extra money for the class because we're over 18 credits. But it turned out to be the best thing, because when I graduated, I had this great show business sense So I just looked at the industry from a commercial and financial point of view instead of it just being the artistic point of view. So the approach was just a little different. So so yeah.
When it comes down to it, I mean, it definitely sounds like, you know, because a lot of actors believe it's, you know, it's so much about talent and your auditioning skills. But yes, those things are important, but really it comes down to the way that you interact with people and what value you can almost like bring to the show. And in your case, you're bringing the value of, I already know this show, so you can save money on, you know, teaching me everything and me like auditioning and stuff. And I'm also like already like fully prepared and I've already done this. So I'm going to be bringing my knowledge and my expertise and then mixing that with what you want. So you show that you're flexible. There's so many things that you brought as in terms of like value for the other side, besides just your natural acting ability. And, you know, you did the audition or whatever, but it's awesome because it's literally like, how can I provide value for them rather than I want them to look at me and see what I'm good at, you know?
Right, right. And I think that becomes really important for actors because we spend so much time thinking, hey, I have to do this audition and nail it and give them what they're looking for. Instead of saying, hey, I have this audition opportunity, so this is my time to pitch and show them what my product is. And then they can decide if they want to buy my product or not. So I teach all over the world now. Yay. And one thing that I say is that you have to think of your entire business, your package, your skill, your acting craft as being a product in a grocery store. And when you go to the grocery store, you decide, hey, I want, I want this type of hamburger meat, and I need Tide with scent crystals, and I need Downy fabric softener. And then you have to figure out for yourself what your product is. I always say I'm Tide with bleach alternative. There are no coupons today. It's not like, 2-for-1 or whatever. I'm Tide with bleach alternative. And if you decide that you want just regular Tide, then I'm not the product for you. But when I go into the audition room, I am showing you all within the confines of the show, all of what Tide with bleach alternative is. And then it's up to you to decide if you want to buy that product or not. So, in my mind, it kind of it gives the power back to the actor instead of us losing all of our power in the audition room. And then what happens is that dread of auditioning completely goes away because the audition world is just the place for you to truly just showcase what your product is. So you're always winning and you're refining your product at every audition. So it's not a chance for you to just show someone what you do and then hope that they like you, but it's a chance for you to showcase what you do, refine your product to see how it's received, see what you're learning, and use that audition room as your playground, as your training ground to refine everything. And then you always win. Whether you get the show or not, you learn something in that audition room, you've refined your product, and it's just making you better for the next audition. And hopefully that next audition is where they're like, dude, I didn't know I needed Tide with bleach alternative, but you're right, I need Tide with bleach alternative. So yeah, that's how I look at it. So, and it gives me back the power so that, the auditions and the rejection and all of that kind of, they don't beat me up, but it's just like ways for me to just kind of refine my craft and refine myself and grow and build from there. So it becomes like this fun playground exercise type thing. Yeah.
Let's this stuff is amazing, and I want to talk a little bit about rates and payment and stuff for a minute, because you're kind of like making me think about something that I actually learned recently. That was super valuable for me from a business coach, which is this idea that let's say you're selling a product or a service, and a client asks you, hey, listen, I can't afford your product or service as it is. Is there any way you would be willing to give me a discount? If you say like, well, yeah, I guess I could help you out there. The second that you say something like that, it automatically puts in the mind of the person asking for the discount that you are like a lying, cheating person, that like you're trying to scam them out of money, because the fact that you're able to offer them the same thing for a lower rate says to them that you're like kind of like sneaky or whatever. And instantly, from the second that you say that, the rest of the time they're always going to be like wondering about you while they're working with you or whatever. Like, is he cheating me? Is he overcharging me for this or whatever, you know? And so it's like a really, really bad thing. And the only way that you can ever like drop your rates as a business person is if you sort of extract a concession out of the person. So like, well, if we're doing like phone calls or something, and I'm consulting with you, instead of doing 4 calls a month, I'll do 3, and I can offer it for this rate. But if you just drop the rates without extracting a concession, they won't trust you anymore. So my question for you is, how does it go about, like, a lot of actors, they don't know, like, you know, can I set my own rates? Can I ask them, like, how do I negotiate my payments and stuff? And I mean, a lot of times agents will kind of be involved in that, but if an actor doesn't have an agent, what would your advice be for them? How do they go about negotiating pay?
Awesome. So, I mean, this is tricky. It's tricky. And the answer that I give today will probably not be the answer that I give tomorrow. But today, this morning at 9:15, my answer sounds something like this. First of all, you have to really know. I tell actors first to honestly figure out what you can afford. Because sometimes we have this idea that actors have to starve and have to suffer and struggle, and I think there is value and merit to like paying your dues and like pounding the pavement and getting out there and making it happen. And if you have to take a side job, take a side job. But you also have to really honestly figure out what you can and you can't afford. And you also have to be able to say no. If I really want to do this project, but I can't afford to do that. Like, I'm going to starve and be in the poorhouse and not have a place to live, then you have to be able to say no, and hope that they'll come back with a better offer. And if not, then just know that that's not the gig for you. And the thing is, you also have to admit to yourself that not every gig is for you. It's either not for you personally, or it's not for you emotionally, it's not for you career-wise, or it's not for you financially. That's just how it works, and that will be the right gig for someone else. And we just have to trust the universe and be like, you know what, that wasn't my gig. I really wanted to do it, but it wasn't for me, and this other person got it, and great, it's for them. So the other thing is knowing what you're worth. For me, when I started in the beginning, and there were gigs that I did for, next to nothing, especially when I was non-union and just like trying to get out there and find work. And then for myself, I was like, okay, so when I do my next gig, I kind of want to be at that same benchmark or a little bit higher, so that I'm always growing and growing and growing. Mm-hmm. And in that negotiation, I said to them, hey, here's the deal. I'm so happy that you made this offer. I appreciate it completely. I just finished a contract kind of at this price point, and by some miracle, I figured out how to scrape and get by and kind of make that work. However, I really want to keep moving forward, because if I'm in a better place financially, I'm in a better place emotionally. That means I'm in a better place professionally, and I can
knowing what you're doing for them.
Yeah. So then I just say, so I know that you made this offer. So and I know that the struggles I had at working at this price point. So I'm gonna come in and just see what's the possibility of you meeting me at this price point. It's higher than what I did last time. What's the possibility of you meeting me there? And then just let them come back with an answer. Here's the thing, it's a business. And they're not going to be offended or hurt or feel slighted that you're asking for a different price point. Mm-hmm. They have the option of saying yes or no, or coming back with a different offer, and you also have that same power. you have the power of saying yes or no, or coming back with a different offer. And for myself, like you said, sometimes they would say, hey, you know what? Financially, we just can't do that. All we can do is this. Then I would say to them, all right, perfect. I completely understand that because I know that it's expensive to do shows and you have a lot of actors that you're looking into and all that kind of good stuff. Is there anything else that we can do to sweeten the pot so that I can find a way to make it more feasible for me? Right now, it's not affordable. But is there a way to throw in a gym membership? Is there a way to help with this? Or can I get this many tickets so I'm not buying tickets for people to come and see the show? Or like whatever it is, like just figure out what those things are that you think you need that'll kind of make it work out for you emotionally or personally, and see if they can meet you on that end. I've even gone so far as to say, all right, if they say, hey, we're paying everyone the same salary, that's just what we're doing. Okay, great. Is there anything that we can do on the front end or the back end to kind of make up the difference? Like, I know you offer a travel stipend of $75. Can we change that travel stipend to $200 so that on paper, you're still paying me the same salary, but then I can kind of make up the difference here? And just not be afraid to ask those questions. The answer can be no, and chances are it will be no. That has nothing to do with you. It's not them disrespecting you or whatever, or not valuing your talent. It's just financially we can do this and we can't do that, period. And then again, you have the ability to come back and say yes or no, or make a different offer. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. If you can't meet in the middle or something and you're not happy with the terms, then it's not your gig. It's a gig for someone else, and that's just how it works. Thank you so much for the offer. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to do this. However, I do really want to work for your company, so I would love to circle back and reach out to you if there's another project on your season that works out, or if I'm in a place financially where I can work at that price point. You know, and then see what they say. So, yeah, but it's really about knowing what you think you're worth, knowing what you want that career to look like as you move up in price points, being able to say no, and finding the right way, the polite way to communicate so that it is a back and forth between you and the company, and you guys are trying to come to an agreement. If you just come in and say, no, I'm not doing it for that amount of money, I want this instead, and don't give them reasons why, or don't explain why you're making that choice, then
yeah, and why you want to work with them or make something, come up with something that'll work.
Yeah. And then just be able to say no and kind of go from there. Also, it also helps if you've actually researched the company. Like if you know what types of shows they do, if you know kind of what their budget looks like, if you know what they're paying other people. This is another reason that I love the regional audition conference circuit, because when you go to those conferences or you register for those conferences, you get a list of all the companies that are attending, you get a list of all the shows they're doing, you get a list of all their creative teams so you can add that stuff to your database of information, and you get a list of what they're offering people, what those salaries look like. And you'll also notice that different audition conferences, same shows, same companies, have different pay rates. So if you go to SETCs, which in the beginning is mostly college students, right, the pay rate may be here. And if you go to UPTAs, where part of the audition requirement to get in is that you have to essentially be out of school, the pay rate is a little bit higher. So if I audition for you at SETCs, and you say you're paying $200 a week, but I know for a fact you're auditioning next week at UPTAs and you're paying $550 a week, I already know that I can negotiate between that range. I already know that. And if you're offering someone $550 a week, I know you can probably pay someone $650. I know this. So I just start negotiating that way. So I'll probably come in and just say, hey, I'm playing a principal role on this show. I really wanted to see you at UPTAs, but I can't because I'm booked on another show. I see that your salary at UPTAs is listed at $550. So what if I started the negotiation at $650 and we just kind of go from there and figure out where we can meet in the middle? I know that's higher than what you're offering at UPTAs, but I would definitely want to be considered the same caliber as those actors at Updas, which was my original plan, but I'm booked and can't be there. So let's start there. Or however you want to start that negotiation, but you have to show that you've done your research, that these choices, these ideas of what you want to be paid actually make sense to you financially, emotionally, and intellectually. And you've also paid attention business-wise to what they can and cannot do to know what you can ask for. If your initial offer is $200 a week, you know that's really what the company pays, and you come in and say, hey, I want $1,200. I'm telling you the answer is no. Like, you know what I mean? So we just have to, in a smart way, think about this. And it's the same way, that agents negotiate. So yeah, we just have to not be afraid to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you explaining this process, because a lot of actors don't understand how negotiations work, and having that is super, super helpful.
Yay.
So let's see. I've written down a number of questions here. I mean, first off, I just have to say the content of what you're talking about is so, so valuable. And it keeps on like making more questions come up. But let's see. I'm going to go back really quick to the beginning. You talked a little bit about when I first asked you, like, tell me about your backstory. You were like, I generally don't like to talk about myself. I know, like, we started on this, but I think it's a good point to bring up. Sometimes actors can feel like, you know, I have to talk about myself to promote myself and everything. But you kind of go about it another way by acknowledging other people. And tell us a little bit about, like, why you feel it's better to focus on others, and how do you kind of like balance that, like, self-promotion with you know, not talking about yourself.
Right. So this is very interesting, because it goes into like the idea of brand and type. So in school we talk a lot about type. You know, you're a leading player, you are an ingenue, you are a character actor, all those kinds of things. I personally don't believe in type. I think it's a way that we just put actors in boxes, but as actors, we're creative beings. So we don't really fit in boxes. They don't exist in my world, but I do believe in brand. And I said before, I'm tied with Bleach Alternative. But another part of my brand is that I'm a boy from a small town in the Midwest, and we're raised, at least I was raised, to be extremely humble, sometimes humble to a fault. However, I love that about myself, so that's a part of myself that I always need to celebrate. And then also, it shows when I walk in the room, or I'm having conversations with people about the business or about myself or about life in general. I think being able to show that you're grateful and thankful, and you have gratitude for all the people that helped you get there, and that you speak highly of people that you've encountered, it makes someone that you're communicating with actually feel good. And it also shows, for me, that I'm not going to be a troublemaker. Usually I will not be involved in any of the drama that's going to happen at your theater. And my job is to just be that positive influence in the company. That's what I do. And if I can show that in any conversation that I'm having, then I'm doing myself a great service by really showing my true character, who I am. And then also, if I'm doing scene work, or I have a scene partner, or I'm playing opposite someone, it lets a director and a producer know that my job is going to be to truly lift up my scene partner. And if we both do that, then the scenes are glorious, because I'm giving my actor everything that I think they need, or everything that they've told me that they need. And then hopefully they're doing the same thing for me. And then we're able to fully work together, right? Because we want there to be team players. So how do I get by without talking about myself? If someone were to say to me, hey, Arbender, oh my goodness, you've had this amazing career. Like, how did you do it? I will full on say, you know what? I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I did it. And I wake up each day and I'm shocked and surprised that this is the situation that I'm in. I'm really, really thankful for it. But I'll tell you what, there have been a lot of people and a lot of cheerleaders and a lot of teachers and coaches and like mentors and like the bum on 42nd Street that have inspired me. Or there have been great actors that I look up to and I'm still fighting to get to, you know, the plateau that they're sitting on right now. Or I'll full on say, you know what? The interesting thing is I've made so many mistakes along the way that I've learned from, and that's what got me here. And I wish that I had the ability to go back and do it all over again, because who knows where I would be had I not failed so many times. So just celebrating my failures, celebrating my struggles, celebrating the fact that lots of people have really helped me get there. And also just going back and constantly thanking those people. Like there is a casting director here in New York City that was instrumental in casting me in my first Broadway show, which was Hairspray. And whenever I see him, I say, you have no idea how that little bit of help that you gave me in that audition process has completely changed my life. And I have to thank you. And I know I thanked you last week when I saw you. And I know I thanked you last month when I saw you. And I know I thanked you last year. But I'm thanking you again because you have no idea how instrumental that was. And I appreciate it. And just being as genuine in those types of comments and communication as you possibly can. That way, also, if you ever do have to reach out to that person for a favor or for something, or is it possible to get me seen for this project, then you have a rapport with that person. You've lifted that person up to make them feel better, so they have no problem throwing you a bone or helping you out because they know that you're going to be grateful for it, right? And they know that you're going to be sure to give them the praise and the accolades that they need. I always tell people that the worst thing that could happen in my career now is for me to win a Tony Award, because there is absolutely no way that I'll be able to thank all the people that have actually helped me get there. And what I would probably do is just like with Sharpie, write names all over my entire body and just like be like, I can't give a speech and just undress and just be like, but zoom in the camera because I have to thank all of these people that are written on this body. You know what I mean? Like there are millions and millions and millions of people, whether it's like producers or casting directors or teachers or mentors or cast members or people that I met in the audition room who have all helped me to get to where I am. I know that I'm lucky. I know that I'm blessed, or like whatever you want to believe. I know that a few times I've been in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the right time or whatever. And I know that, as they say on Project Runway, one day you're in and one day you're out. I completely understand all of that. So I just need to thank everyone and thank the universe all along the way, so that, you know, that becomes, I don't know, that kind of becomes the mantra, that becomes part of the brand. People know that I'm an extremely grateful person. People know that I'm a very thankful person. And that's part of my brand. That's who I am. So if someone wants to work with me, they want to work with me for those reasons. And it's not just my talent. So yeah. And like, I don't know, like who likes to talk about themselves? Like, what do you say without sounding like a jerk? You know what I mean?
It's true. I mean, from the people that I've interviewed and all the people that I've met over the course of building my own business, and, you know, I mean, first off, there is no way to do anything yourself, really. I mean, you can put in a lot of work, but you need other people to actually like make it happen. And whether that's just somebody offering you the role after you've auditioned, but it seems like there's a direct relationship with people who I've met over the time of doing this. The people who are the least grateful tend to also be the one who have the least amount of success, and the people who are the most grateful are the ones who, like, it seems like the more you recognize it within others and the more that you make other people feel good about themselves and try to give back, it kind of, you know, then they want to help you, they want to give you opportunities. And we can give unlimited gratitude. Essentially, it's like that emotional thing we have like unlimited reserves of. It's not like you're going out and paying people physical money, you know. So I feel like for anybody who doesn't want to give gratitude, it's like, why not? You know, you can
And
give.
if you also think about what we do, yeah, I'm in Book of Mormon right now. I walk on stage to make my first entrance. I'm singing Hasadika Ibawai and the audience goes crazy. Well, here's the thing. I'm wearing the perfect costume created by this costume designer. Wonderful. I have the perfect lighting cue and the perfect lighting on my skin to make me look great from this lighting designer. Yeah. I have like the perfect timing of this entrance before I stop and this light hits me because a director and a choreographer figure that out and then the lighting designer turns it on. Yeah, I have like the perfect things to say so the audience knows how to respond because I have these writers that wrote it for me. So if you think of how collaborative this business is, you also have to be extremely grateful because it takes the work of all of those people working at the top of their game to make your job easy and successful. So yeah, like you don't win a Tony Award just because you went on stage and said like these great lines. Someone wrote those lines. A director helped you figure out how to say those lines. A costume designer told you what to wear. A lighting designer made you look good. A sound designer made it sound glorious to the audience. And the supporting cast also told the audience where to look and what to feel and like how to focus on what you're saying at that moment to make it work.
And
So
all the teachers who taught you your technique.
right, you know what I mean? So yeah, I mean if you can celebrate it in that way and know that it's all part of a team, then like, you know, the journey of just being grateful and talking about all the people that are helping you, it just makes it easier and it makes for a better conversation. You know what I mean? Like
What's
better
funny
conversation.
is I feel like this kind of almost leads into a sort of, I'm going to guess, a somewhat of an answer to my next question, which is you said at the very beginning that you were always a very shy and reserved person. So some actors feel that way. Do you find that being grateful helps you get over being shy, or how did you get over being shy to be able to move your career forward?
I'm still shy, and the best. I'm gonna get into so much trouble for saying this. The best part and worst part of my day is leaving the stage door and signing autographs because I can't hide behind lights and costumes and you know script that someone else wrote. And 9 times out of 10, the person handing me their playbill to sign is going to be like, "Oh my goodness, you were so great." And then I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I say? So what I try to do, even in that moment, to kind of take the stress off of me, is I force myself to make eye contact, which is very, very difficult. It's so difficult, but I know I have to force myself to do it. But I make that moment all about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll ask them. I'll be like, hey, I'm so grateful that you came. What made you decide to come see the show? Or awesome, you know, I'm in Book of Mormon. It took my parents 3 tries to get through the show. Is this your first time seeing the show? And then they kind of talk about it. It's their first time or second time or 12th time. Holy smokes, I wish I could see the show that many times. That would be great. Or whatever it is. So I just always try and make it about the other person so that it does take the stress off of me because I'm terrified. I'm like it. I get my nervous sweats when I'm talking one-on-one with someone. So if I can make it about them and honestly show interest in them, it just makes my life a little bit easier. And hopefully by them talking about themselves or their experience, it actually keeps the conversation going because the last thing I want to do is just talk about myself.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's also what I do in a sneaky way, I guess. So, but yes,
No, I
exactly,
mean
exactly
it's really really valuable because a lot of actors are, you know, shy and they feel like that holds them back. In fact, that was just a question that someone asked me. we're doing a little like promo video and photo shoots on Wednesday this coming week, and a few actors are coming in to talk about things. And one of the questions that they want to discuss is that. So I think it's really, really great to be able to think of it as like, you know, it's easier to ask questions about people because thereby you're also making that person feel good. And not only that, I mean, asking questions like, oh, why'd you come to see the show? Or, you know, what interested you in it? It's also good for you because you kind of learn something new, and that could be helpful. Like maybe this person says something that you haven't heard before and you're like, oh, that's an interesting thing. And it kind of makes you think like maybe I could add more of that into my performance, or, you know, bring that suggestion up to the people there, you know.
Definitely, definitely. And also, oh, I was gonna say something else about that too, about talking about the other person. Oh, yeah. The other thing is that's also part of who I am as a person, and that's also part of my brand. So I'm also not afraid to tell people that, believe it or not, I'm actually very shy. Even at the stage door, I'll say it. I'll say it. I'm a shy person, and just so you know, this moment right now stresses me out more than actually being on stage. And then sometimes it ends up being a conversation about being shy, or how do you do theater if you're so shy? And I'm like, yeah, my mother forced me to do it, and now this is where I am. So it also just makes me a human, and puts me on the same level as all of the people that are around me. Because when people meet you at the stage door, sometimes they think, you know, he's up here because he's on Broadway and I'm all the way down here. And it's just me showing them, you know what, we're on the same page. We're all human. The same thing happens in the audition room. Sometimes we put the people behind the table on this really, really high pedestal. But at the end of the day, we're all human. We're all the same people. So I just try to communicate with everyone on the same level with full respect, but just communicate with everyone on the same plane as honestly and like genuine as I possibly can. And I know who I am as a person, and I'm not afraid to say, you know what, I'm a shy person, or this part of the process completely stresses me out. Like, how do you deal with it? Because, you know, I'm secretly shaking in my boots right now, or whatever it is. Just like keep it as honest and real as possible, because that's also who you are as a person, and you have to be able to embrace that and bring that with you on the journey. So at least for me, that's been my path. Like
Kind
and
of like
maybe it's what sets me apart from others, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well, what I'm getting from that is a suggestion for actors could be you would be called like a pre-frame. So you're pre-framing the conversation by just saying, hey, you know, I'm a shy person. And then that kind of helps them connect with you. It also makes you feel more comfortable now having the conversation because you know that they're sort of expecting that. And it just can make the conversation easier for someone who is shy. And it also helps build rapport with the other person sort of naturally, because then they'll be like, oh, okay, well, you know, me too. Or that's, you know, we'll talk about that. So I like that. That's a really good little tip. I would like to move into, I know that you don't like talking about yourself, but actors would be curious to hear what's like one or two of big goals that you have in your acting career, things that you're sort of like excited to move towards, and what are, if any, like very specific steps that you're starting to take to move towards those goals?
Cool. So so this is a really good question too. And I'm gonna, like always, make it a long answer. I'm so sorry. You're like, this is the longest video ever.
It's totally fine. And I'll say, if you're not in a huge rush, you know, it's okay if we go a little bit longer. I'm not in a rush.
Okay, perfect. I think the fact that you're asking about goals is a really, really important thing. And for myself, I learned at a very, very young age that we have to set goals and we have to set benchmarks. And those goals don't all necessarily have to lead you to, like, you know, I'm trying to get to the North Star, so these are my goals to get there. But it's like, what are all the benchmarks and all the accomplishments that I want to have along that journey? And what I do is I actually write them down because I like to see things on paper. I'm constantly writing down goals and like dreams and ideas and aspirations. And I love crossing them off once I've accomplished them. And once I've accomplished them, I love to think of something else to add to the list. And I think that what happens with a lot of people is that we set these goals and then we achieve them, or we get close to achieving them, and then we forget to set new goals for ourselves. So then we're not actively working towards something, you know? So if I had to pick just two things off of my goals list, I knew at a many years ago when I finally committed to like, yeah, I think I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to try and do this. I knew that I had an obligation to also tell stories that meant something to me. And there are a number of things like autism and autism research, and like mental illness and mental health, the social services and like the homeless population in our country. Like these are things that mean a lot to me. These are organizations that I volunteer with all the time. These are, you know, legislation that I'm always watching to see like what are we doing with these communities, and like how is this affecting people. So I do have goals of doing pieces of work, whether they're devised by someone else or devised by myself, that really target those types of issues in a different way. Like oftentimes when we talk about mental health and mental illness, we're telling a story and we're showing, you know, how much someone is suffering, or like how horrible this is for someone to deal with. And I say, well, why not tell the other part of the narrative? Like, why not, you know, talk about, hey, there's this person that's dealing with mental illness, but look at the accomplishments that they're doing and look at how they've decided to kind of deal with what their illness is. Or here's this person with you know, this mental illness that raised these amazing children, and let's tell their story from the inside.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, so these are things that I'm always writing about and always seeking to collaborate with people about. So that's a goal. Like I would love to be on the creative end of making something commercial that really targets that storyline and like causes people to talk. The other thing that's a goal of mine is, and part of the reason I agreed to do this interview is that I made so many mistakes along the way, like so many mistakes. And there were so many times along the way that I doubted myself, or I didn't allow myself to dream, or I didn't, you know, dig in and honestly try for this project because I was afraid of the failure. So I failed anyway. And it is a goal of mine to honestly empower anyone that comes into contact with me, to say, here's the deal. If I can do it, you can do it. And if I can do it with doubting myself and like, you know, failing all along the way, think about how much further you can get when you have this extra support and you have this extra information and you have like people telling you the ways that they failed so that you're learning from that. It's kind of the reason that I love Walt Disney so much, because he failed countless times, went bankrupt countless times, trying to make this dream come alive. And the only thing that he's saying is that you have the power to be whoever you want and be comfortable in your skin. And that's it. Like, just be you. You know what I mean? Which is, I mean, it's great that I'm doing this interview here because I'm in a room surrounded by Disney artifacts. Like, it's just like, it's Disney everything, because that's what motivates me. That's what kind of keeps me going. So I want to be like that Walt Disney for anyone that comes in contact with me. How can I empower you? How can I help you? How can I just give you information that I've learned along the way so that you can then go even further, right? So that's also a huge goal of mine, is just to, you know what, if you want to do it, you can do it. Let's just make sure that I give you all the information I have. Let's make sure that person's gives you all the information they have, and let's make sure that you have the power to pay that forward when you can. So I think if I had to share just two goals, it would be that I really want to be on the creative end of something commercial that deals with one of those things, whether it's autism, whether it's social services, or whether it's mental health. And I really want to continue to be that Walt Disney of the people that come in contact with me, that I just want to empower them and let them know that, yes, it is possible. It may not be easy, right? And we may not have like the perfect path to get there, but we can do it. And I'm going to give you and empower you. I'm going to give you information and empower you all along the way. That's what I'm going to do. That's also really what I teach when someone coaches with me, is the first thing that I do is really empower them. My goal isn't to say, hey, this isn't good, do it this way. My goal is to say, all right, I see what you're doing. Let's turn up the volume on this and this and this and this and this that you're doing, because I think that's really going to work. So awesome. Let's turn up the volume on these other things that I've learned about you personally, because I think they have value. And then let's see if we really need, for this audition, let's see if we really need these other 4 things that you're also adding. Like, do we really need to celebrate those things right now? Or can we just focus on celebrating these other things that are working so well for you? You know what I mean? It's just empowering them and finding a new way to communicate, and setting them up for success by celebrating the things that they're already doing well. We can just turn up the volume or turn up the energy on those successful things. So yeah, hopefully that answers your question. And hopefully it wasn't too long. I know I talked too much.
No. Trust me, you're amazing. I mean, this interview is so cool. My next question is related to advice on auditioning. So what are 2 or 3 top tips that you could give to an actor who struggles to get called back after auditioning?
Sweet. So, I mean, there are a couple of things. First of all, no one wants to hear this, but you're not going to book every gig. It's not going to happen. You're not always going to get the callback that you want. Not going to happen. As you get further in this career, you're not even going to get seen for all the projects that you want to get seen for. I mean, there are so many projects out there. People are like, Arbender, you've done 11 Broadway shows. You've been on Broadway for 15 years. Oh my goodness, this is amazing. And I'm like, yeah, but there are at least 200 shows that I couldn't even get seen for. They were like, nah, he's not right. And my feelings were hurt, right? Like that is always part of the journey. It's part of the process. It's just what it is, and we have to accept that, right? And there are tons of shows that I've auditioned for that I haven't gotten callbacks for. Tons. And there are tons of shows that I auditioned for and got the final callbacks and I didn't book. So like that part of the process, that part of the journey never goes away, because there's another variable in the equation, right? I can give the best audition in the world. I can think to myself, I am the best option to play this penguin in Ice Caps the musical. I just made it up. It's great. Right. Ice Caps the musical. I want to be penguin number 2, right? But if the director has decided in his ideal world, in my ideal world, I want to direct Ice Caps the musical, and I want everyone to have natural red hair. Cool. Here's the thing. I don't care how great my audition is. I don't care how wonderful, how much they even loved it behind the table. If the director, right, who has decided I'm creating this piece from his imagination, if he or she or they, I'm learning, have decided that I want all natural redheads for this show, I'm not getting a callback. And if I do get a callback, I'm not booking the show. Has nothing to do with me, nothing to do with my talent. So the first bit of advice is sometimes it has nothing to do with you and nothing to do with your talent. It's not a personal thing. It's just, this is what it is. End of story. And we have to embrace that. You know what I mean? Just like I don't like ice cream. I don't care what kind of ice cream you put in front of me. I don't like ice cream. I don't like the temperature. I don't like the consistency. I don't like that it looks like milk. I don't like it. You know, and to some people, they're like, but you have to like ice cream. Trust me, I don't. Yeah. So if you're trying to sell me ice cream, I'm not buying it. I don't want it. I don't even walk down the ice cream aisle in the grocery store. It's disgusting. Right? Cool. So that's that. The other thing, and I learned this late in my career, I'm 42, like I'm 100. Anyways, later in my career, is that we have to change the narrative about what we want to happen in the audition room, right? We always say, I'm doing this audition because I want to get a call back and I want to book the show. Okay, right. Well, only one person is going to book this role out of the hundreds of people that they're auditioning. So here's the thing.
3,000.
Right, you know what I mean? So by that goal, the majority of the people that are auditioning are going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you're already kind of setting yourself up for failure unless everything by every miracle and all the odds and all the statistics are all in your favor. And it's like the Hunger Games. So the gods are not in your favor. Yeah. So I changed what I wanted that audition room to be. So the first thing that I started doing for myself, and it's a little extra work on the actor's end, is that in preparing for the audition, I say to myself, what else does my brand need to bring to this audition material? Whatever it is. Whether it's like, I want to bring a different level of intelligence, or I want to bring, more clarity in the physical life of this character, whatever it is, or I want to bring a little more magic to, how I play the scene within that space, or how I use the space, whatever it is, or I want to celebrate a little more of like the musical accuracy that I can put into here. Just something for yourself that you're fighting towards outside of just doing the regular work that you do when you're preparing for an audition. Great. So that's that. So I've already given myself an extra challenge. So the audition material alone becomes a challenge and a way for me to empower myself and learn something new and like fight for something and think about something other than just let me memorize this material for this audition tomorrow. Right? So I've already given myself a challenge. Great. Hopefully I achieve that challenge. Then before I go into the audition room, I say to myself, what do I think is going to happen? How do I think this is going to be received? What am I hoping for in the room outside of getting the call back? I'm really hoping to find a new level of depth in this character, or I'm really hoping to, find a better quality in the sound and make that make sense within the character choices. Like give myself some kind of, this is what I think is going to happen, right? Do my audition. I always make sure that I have a moment of genuinely connecting with the people in the room instead of just going in, doing my audition and leaving, because I think that who I am as a person is part of my brand. So I honestly want to genuinely connect with the people in the room, whether it's like double checking their name or like reminding them that I know their name or reminding them the last time that I saw them, or praising, hey, you know what? I saw this show last week and like, I just want to say the casting on that show is amazing. Kudos to you in your office, or whatever it is. Just so there's a moment of genuinely connecting. And that happens to the people behind the table. That happens with the monitor. That also happens with the accompanist behind the piano. Really genuinely connect. Cool. Then after my audition, I immediately write down for myself what I learned, what I discovered. Okay, so I ate chili hot dogs before I went into the audition and I couldn't sing. Like whatever I learned, who cares what it is? Like I learned don't wear these shoes, or I learned wear these shoes. I felt so tall. Like whatever it is. So I've already won, right? I set myself up with a really, really cool challenge in preparing for the audition. I set myself up to really see what I wanted to accomplish in the audition room right before the audition. I genuinely connected with the people inside the room, which is great because we always want to connect and they'll remember that down the road. And then I checked in with myself to see what I learned. I win. whether they call me back or not, like, that's a great day. That's a great audition experience. I did it. Let's go have cake instead of ice cream because I don't like ice cream. And just kind of go from there. So whether I get the call back or not, I've already succeeded. Then if I get the call back, wonderful. Go back to my notes, see what challenges I gave myself, right, in the beginning of preparing for that material. How can I enhance those challenges going into the callback, right? What else am I trying to do this time in the callback? How can I continue upon that connection in the callback? Because now this is like time number 2 where I'm in the room with these same people. And then let's see what I learned this time after the callback, right? I think when you start doing that, those callbacks are going to happen more often because you're delivering something in the room that's different from what everyone's giving. Everyone's coming in with the same nervous energy. Everyone's coming in with the same initial choices of the material that's been presented. I mean, there are only so many ways you can play Seymour in Little Shop of Horror, right? And most people are going to play it the exact same way. But I decided I also want to bring a little bit more intelligence to him, or I also want to bring a little bit more physical life to him. So I'm already doing something in the room that's genuine, but slightly different, that shows a different amount of preparation, right? And I've made this entire time in the room a moment for everyone in the room because I've genuinely connected with them. Chances are you're going to get a call back. Whether you get the show or not, they're probably just going to want to see you again. Oh my goodness, I love their energy. Let's just call them back. You know what I mean? And if it's not this project, I guarantee you, they'll call you in for something down the road if you successfully did all of that work because they're going to like you as a person. Sometimes we forget that the people in the room and behind the table are humans, and we need to establish great connections with them. And those connections are what will carry us further along in the career. So those are 2 goals by way of giving you 30 goals to help get more callbacks. Yeah, hopefully that answered the question. Oh my goodness,
It definitely did. No, you don't talk too much. Trust me. Like you talk about things that are so valuable, and anyone who doesn't want to hear you talk is just going to be missing out.
Okay, good.
So my next question, I know we're kind of like, how are you on time here? Because we have 2 primary more questions, but
I'm good. We'll
all right, awesome. Yeah, again, this stuff is really, really exciting. Let's talk a little bit about getting an agent. You said that you kind of worked as an agent for yourself. Do you currently have an agent now?
Cool. So yes, I do have an agent, and I recently added a manager to the team as well.
Okay.
Know that I booked my first 2 Broadway shows without an agent. I literally went to an ECC for both shows, like literally, and booked Hairspray and then booked Little Mermaid on Broadway. So ECCs and EPAs actually work. It's a lot of work, but they do work. I booked 2 Broadway shows, and my first Broadway show I booked literally like it was the first audition I did in New York City. I didn't book it right away, but a month later I was in rehearsals for the show. So it was like 6 auditions later, but still. So how do we go about getting an agent? So there are a number of ways to do it. The way that worked out for me best was I saw people that had careers and had audition experiences that I admired, and I literally reached out to them and said, "Hey, how do you do it? Is it your agent? And if it is your agent, what do you think about, like, introducing me to your agent so that I can meet them?" So that's how I got the agent that I'm with now. And also know that with every agent, there will be people that love the agent and there'll be people that hate the agent. That's just what it is. Just like some people love ice cream, some people hate ice cream. And it's all about figuring out how the client and the agent actually communicate to figure out if this is going to be the best working relationship. But how do we go about getting the agent, right? We can do the mailings, which sometimes they work. I say this: if you're going to do a mailing, be sure that the mailing has something of value. If it's just, a general letter, hey, my name is so and so, I'm seeking representation by your agency, I think I would be a great asset to your team. Okay, so as an agent, I've taken my time away from doing my job of agenting and finding work for my clients to open mail from you and get a basic picture from you and a letter that says absolutely nothing. Mm. Now I'm annoyed because I'm like, I just wasted valuable time that I could have been actually doing my job of agenting for my clients to read this letter from you, and it says absolutely nothing. It says nothing. It just says the same thing that every other letter sees. Yes, of course, everyone wants an agent. Yes, everyone thinks they're right for every agency. Yes, everyone wants to be an actor. But what have you added to this letter that helps me out? Instead, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm currently doing this and this. I've researched your agency, and there are a number of successful clients that you have that I would love to have a career similar to that. This is what I think my brand or my type is. And if you need more information, you can go to my Actors Access, which is the best thing to have because that's the same platform that agents use. Breakdown Services, Actors Access, same thing. Here's my Actors Access profile if you need anything else. There are videos there. Everything you need is there. Then they have something to do in the same system that they normally use all day, every day. So it's easy to look you up and like pull you up, and I don't have to scroll through. I'm not going to your YouTube page and all of these different things and spending extra time just trying to see if I think your talent is where it needs to be to match what we're able to do as an agent. So it's just being a little more specific in the way that you reach out and how you communicate. The same thing with if you're able to submit online for an agency, be sure that you actually give them the information that they need. So I did an internship inside of an agency, and I can't tell you how many online submissions came in that weren't filled out properly. The online submission says, hey, send your headshot and resume in PDF form because we do not have the ability to open large files, right? They don't send it at all. Okay, that's an issue. Or tell me a little bit about yourself. It's blank. Or if you have an Actors Access profile, send us a link. Or if you have a website, send us a link. And the link section is blank. Okay, so all of the things that I need to look at your work and your submission to honestly consider it, you haven't done. Mm-hmm. So that tells me that even if I want you on my roster, how am I going to truly know that you're going to follow through with the things that I need from you? Right? Or if you send a resume and like it's not updated, or it's missing information, or things are just misspelled, or the formatting is like all over the place, I'm going to immediately assume, I'm not sure that I want this messy client on my roster. Yeah. You know? So there's that. So it's just really making sure that what we're putting out there also matches the brand. Like, how professional do you want us to perceive you? That's what you put out there. So we can get referrals from people that already have agents and make that introduction. We can do the mailings, make the introduction that way. We can go to agencies that we like and apply through their online system, make connections that way. We can also go to like, in some ways I have an issue with these, but sometimes they work, where you go to a place and you pay a fee and then you meet with like 10, 15, 20 agents, right? You can also do those. But when you're doing those, you have to know what you want your client-agent relationship to be and what you want out of an agency. Because agents are meeting, 50, 60, 70, 100 people that day. So like, what do you have to say or you have to offer to make me say, oh, okay, yeah, that would be you might be a great addition to our roster. Why don't you come in next week for an audition? But if you just sit down and just say, hey, I want an agent. Okay,
It's like you're doing your homework on the agency to find out like what type of projects do they often do and how can you be an asset to those projects.
Right. Or doing the homework on yourself and just saying, hey, you know what? So my name's Arbender. Just so you know, I've recently done this, this, and this. I've taken these classes, and I'm ready to take my career to the next level. So what does that look like? I've been booking these types of gigs all the time. And these are the casting directors and producers and directors that I know in that world. But what I would really love to do is this, this, and this. Yeah, there's this show that's coming to Broadway next year, and I feel that I'm a dead ringer for this specific role, right? And these are the reasons why. Just so they kind of get an idea of who you are, how you see yourself, to make sure that they see yourself in the same way. Because if I see you as, you know, a dancer that kind of sings and you're not the best actor, but you see yourself as an actor that dances like crazy and you sing better than anyone else, then we can decide, dude, we're definitely not on the same page, so this is not the right relationship for me. But if I don't know how you perceive yourself, then what value does it have for you to ask me how I perceive you? Yeah? Or if you don't know how you perceive yourself, what value does it have for you to get my opinion on that? It doesn't make any sense. So we have to just be really active and creative and smart in how we present ourselves to agencies. And then I also say to actors that are just beginning, do you actually need an agent? Because what does an agent do? An agent is going to submit you for projects that they think you're right for. An agent, unlike you, will also have access to casting to be like, you know what, I'm sending you this email or making this phone call. Can you get this person in because they're really a dead ringer for this role for these reasons? Here's video footage. But most of that work you can also do yourself. You can submit yourself on Backstage and just make sure it's a complete submission with headshot, resume, video footage, all of that stuff. Short, concise, but perfect. You can submit yourself via email for tons of projects. Just be sure that submission is short, concise, to the point, has all the information they need. Or you can submit yourself through Actors Access or Casting Networks or Casting Frontier. You have access to all of these things. The same things that agents have access to. Now, if you're at a point in your career where you're like, dude, I'm getting all these auditions, I'm having a hard time keeping my schedule organized, I really want to be seen for this specific project and this specific role, I got close, but something was missing, or I got the callback, but not the final callback, then you're at a point where you definitely need an agent. Like you need someone else working with you to help you get further. You don't stop doing the work that you're doing. That's your job. An agent only gets 10%. So 90% of the work is still your job. It's still your work to do. And sometimes actors forget that. Oh, I have an agent now, so now I'm just sitting back. It doesn't make any sense. You have an agent. There are 1,000 agents in the world. Yeah. So something comes out in breakdowns. We're looking for, you know, a Sally and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. Millions of agents are submitting millions of clients for this. Casting is probably only going to go through the first 2,000 submissions to bring in 100 people because that's all they have time for on the day that they're having auditions. But you also have the ability to submit yourself on Actors Access, right? You also have the ability, if it's on Backstage and they want an email submission, to submit yourself. Great. Here's the thing. I'll tell you something. There are less actors doing that part of the job than there are agents doing their part of the job. So here's the thing. When casting goes through the agent submissions and they have 1 million submissions, and then they go through the actor submissions and they have 100 submissions, guess what? They're probably going to see your submission in that 100 pile before they see your submission in that 1 million pile. I'm just saying that. So you still have to do that part of the job. Like don't forget that. Yeah. And then if you get that audition appointment, loop your agent into the conversation so then your agent can do their part of the job by being like, oh yeah, by the way, I also submitted this person for Sally. So let's make sure that we can schedule this audition and all this kind of good stuff. I'll keep track of the time, the date, the location, the audition material, right? Because then when you get the audition material and you say, oh my goodness, this material is for, you know, Simon in Jesus Christ Superstar instead of, you know, Sally and You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. You email your agent. Your agent can then be like, yo, casting, what's up? Let's fix this because there's a mistake in the information. And then that communication is there. And then you're not walking into the audition being like, sorry, I had the wrong sides, but I didn't know how to get a hold of you. That's what an agent does, right? Then when it comes time to negotiate that contract, what does an agent do? They essentially become the filter between you and the producers, right? So instead of you saying, you know what, I really feel that I should be paid this and this and this for this amount of money and all that kind of good stuff, the agent takes your information, deciphers it into language that the producers understand, and they present it to them in that way. So they become that person that handles that.
But it's valuable for you as the actor to understand that. So you need the experience of how to negotiate because, you know, don't just let an agent do everything.
Correct. You have to let them know like what you want and like what are your bottom lines, and like I'll do it, but I'm definitely not swinging from that trapeze. So if I have to swing from the trapeze, I can't do the show. I have a fear of heights or whatever it is. So the agent knows. But sometimes we just let the agents do everything, and the agent's like, all right, I'll do my best, but like I can't even get a hold of my client. The other thing is if you do finally get that agent, be sure that you're available. Like you know, when I was interning in an agency's office, we would email a client and they'd be like a day before they got back to us. And I'm like, dude, like the audition's today. Like what happened? Like where were you? You know what I mean? So you never got back to us. We called, we emailed, something, like let us know. So we have to be able to communicate that way. So getting the agent, we know the ways of going about getting the agent. When you finally get into those meetings, just have something to say. Know what you want from an agency. Also know why you think this agency is a good fit for you. If you're trying to do the Broadway thing, let them know for yourself specifically where you see yourself on Broadway at this time. Right now on Broadway, I see myself in these shows playing these specific roles. So they truly get an idea of who you think you are as an artist, right? Because then they'll know, hey, you know what? All of those roles are dancer-heavy roles. And to be honest with you, our agency just doesn't really do well with dancer-heavy roles. It's really not what we do. You know, it's the wrong agency. Oh my goodness, all of those roles are like, you know, leading ladies that are middle-aged that do this, and it's funny, we tend to do really well in that department. Great, it might be the right agency for you. So you just have to be able to communicate that way. Oftentimes we just say, I just want to work. But for an agent, what does that mean? You just want to work, so does that mean that I'm going to book you on gigs that only pay $150 for the project that I can't take 10% on because the union doesn't allow me to? That has no value. That has no value for me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we have to really know what we're looking for, what we want that relationship to be, how we want to communicate. You know, I want an agent that's willing to have conversations with me on a regular basis. That's not our agency. Or that is our agency. So we just have to know like what we want that relationship to look like, why we think we need an agent, what we have to offer, where we see ourselves, you know, in the scope of the industry today, right? If you are a classical ingenue right now on Broadway, where? Like where, like, what are you gonna do? Phantom of the Opera, My Fair Lady, but it's closing. You know what I mean? So it's like knowing, right? So even if you get the best agent in the world, then you're gonna be upset that you're not getting called in for Broadway auditions, but there's nothing for you right now based on what you said your brand is, right? So we also have to be aware of that. And I think all actors also have to be aware that we constantly need to expand that brand and expand what we do. Like what, if you're not a pop singer, what is your version of pop? Because most of the musicals are pop, right? We also need to know, and I tell actors this all the time, that musical theater is not a musical style. that is not a genre of music, right? Musical theater means I am using these songs to tell a story in this show that's happening on stage, right? But the music in that show is going to be pop or R&B or soul or funk or contemporary or whatever. So we have to push ourselves to understand what those styles are, because in the audition room, that's what we're looking for, right? And we have to know what styles we do well. So in these agent meetings, we can tell them, these are the styles that I do well. This is what I do. And if you don't believe me, these are links to videos so you can actually see me do the work, right? Today, it makes no sense not to have great headshots. It makes no sense not to have some sort of video footage out there. It just doesn't make sense. It makes no sense to not be able to write a nice letter that looks good. I mean, you can write a horrible letter and plug it into Grammarly and like have this beautiful letter come out. So like we have all of these resources, so we just have to use them. So we're presenting ourselves in the best professional business manner as we possibly can, with all of the information laid out for them so that it becomes really, really easy.
Yeah.
Hopefully that answers the question. I'm sorry that was like an hour.
That's okay. I mean, I like I said, the info is really, really great. I do have two questions. Now, see, I'm starting to worry, not that the interview is getting too long, just I want to be very, conscientious of your time. But like really quick, like, let's say that you're auditioning, meeting casting directors, or you're meeting agents and stuff. You talked about earlier that you like to keep in touch. So I'm just wondering, do you have any like sort of systemized way that you actually remember to reach out and stay in touch with people?
Yeah, the first thing that I do is I ask them, what is the best way for me to follow up?
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's an audition or it's like an agent meeting or whatever, I just say, hey, you know what, really fast before I leave, like what's the best way for me to follow up with you, because I hear that it's a good thing to follow up. And they'll tell you, you know what, I'm a casting director, I love postcards. Great. Write that in your notes when you leave the room. What did I learn? I learned that the casting director likes postcards, and this is the best way to reach them. Yeah. Or, you know what, don't worry about following up. We don't like it. Great. Then I know that instead of following up, the next time I see that person in the hallway or I see that person at an audition and they're not too busy, I'm going to stop by and just say hello really fast. Hey, how are you? I can't follow up because I took your advice, but I'm following up in person. Nice to see you again. Great. Or whatever that is. Or they say, you know what, email, but use this email address. Great. That becomes your personal information. Please don't give it to the rest of the world, but use that specific email address to follow up. And when you follow up, let them know that you're following up because they told you to follow up. Hey, you told me to I auditioned for you last week Friday because of this. I'm following up, by your request. And then also have a reason to follow up. If you're just following up to follow up, that has no value to me. It's just like writing the plain letter to an agent that has no value to me. But if you're following up to say, hey, I had a great time at the audition, I took your advice and applied it to this audition and I just booked this gig. Or, hey, I'm following up, but what's also cool is I'm taking your class next week at this. So there's a reason for the follow-up. If there's no reason, there's no value. Right? Sometimes the reason could be, hey, I took all of the feedback that you gave me in my callback a few weeks ago. If you have time, I put the material on tape again, applying those notes. If you ever have time to watch it, here's the link. Thank you so much. It was great learning from you and hearing from you. Great. Right? So then there's a reason to follow up. If they have dead time in their day, they may be able to watch this and say, yeah, he finally got it. Let's write them down. Let's bring them in next time we're auditioning for this role. Just so there's something that shows that you're doing the work and you're following up for a reason and you respect the communication that you have, right? Yeah, that becomes the best thing. But I always say, ask them the best way to follow up and then follow up in that manner. And then here's the other thing. If someone does tell you to follow up or stay in touch, do it. Because oftentimes we get that information and we're afraid to use it. But trust me, they're not going to give you an email address or a phone number or a mailing address thinking that you're not actually going to use it. So use it. We often forget to do that. But if you ask them the best way to follow up, usually they'll give you the best way. They'll appreciate you being respectful of their time and their space, and their job and their position by asking them the best way to follow up, and then following through with that, and following through with that with something of merit. Now, I said there's the idea of like putting the material on tape again and then sending it to them if they have time to watch it. I'm going to ask you not to go back and check your views every week to see how many times they watched it. Don't stress yourself out. Chances are they're not going to watch it, but you've put the work on tape. And also, don't send the tape if it's not dramatically better than what you did in the room. If it's only marginally better, who cares? It has no value. But if it's drastically better and you're like, holy cow, I took your advice and look, wow, yeah, then send it, because then you can be proud of that. And hopefully they'll say, wow, too. If they're going to say, it's better, it has no value. Yeah, so just be sure that we're using that communication in a highly effective way. It's like getting spam email. Like, if it's like the same spam every week, you're like, just send it directly to trash. You don't want your responses to be the responses that we send directly to trash. So just be sure that it's good quality material. Yeah, I always say in the beginning when you're following up, please remind them of when and where and how they met you, because they meet thousands of people every day. Thousands of people, and millions of people are emailing them all day, every day. Keep the correspondence very, very short, because no one wants to spend time scrolling through a long email. Like, we don't. Like, no one wants to do that. Like, please, you just wasted 9 minutes when it could have been just like 2 bullet points. And just, remind them, hey, thank you so much by your request on following up. I met with you. If you remember, I met with you on Wednesday at the waitress audition. It was great. You gave me this feedback, and I'm following up for this reason. Done.
Yeah.
So yeah. Here's my Actors Access link, which is better than like sending a headshot and a resume and all that. Just send them the link. It's all right there, right? Link to this, your resume, pictures, video. It's all right there. Yep. Cool.
All right. So
that's that answer.
my final question.
Okay.
If you had to give some advice to an actor who feels like they're stuck at a plateau in their career, what would it be? And along those lines, if you care to comment, is there anything that an actor should avoid doing?
Cool. So, what should an actor avoid doing? An actor should avoid going to an audition ill-prepared. I know that sounds really, really easy, but an actor should avoid going to an audition ill-prepared, right? You always want to present your best work. And I always say the only time that you're able to fully do the work that you want to do is actually in the audition room, because once you book the gig, that director who decided that I want to cast all my penguins as natural redheads is going to tell you exactly how they want you to do it in their version of the show. So the only time that you get to do it your way is going to be the audition room. So prepare as much as you can and go in prepared, right? Because you're telling casting, this is the best work that I can do today at this time with the ability that I have. Whether I have a cold or whatever, this is the best that I can do today, right? If it's not your best, you haven't done your work, do your work. Cool. What advice would I give someone? Really start figuring out what that brand is for yourself, so that you know what you're always offering. The other advice that I say is acting is an interesting profession, because out of all the other artistic professions, this one requires so many other people to say yes. A painter can wake up in the middle of the night, in the morning, in the middle of the day, sitting in Central Park. They can pull out their paints and they can sketch and they can paint, right? A writer can pull out their little book and write all the time. Yeah, a poet can always do poetry. A singer-songwriter can always pull out their recorder and record new music that they're figuring out, right? They're always able to live in their art. And actors have to find ways to also live in their art, right? Your art doesn't only live in the audition room or in a play, but it also lives in class. It also lives in, you know what, I have a little spare time and I really want to play this role. Let me see if I can find the script and like kind of work on that, you know? Or if you're a singer, I really want to play this role. Let me go ahead and start learning the music. So in the event that the audition does happen, I'm not scrambling to learn the music. In the opera world, people go into most of their auditions off book. Like, yes, this is a role I want to play. I've learned the role. Here we go. This is what I'm going to do. And we need to find ways to make ourselves that prepared. Or saying, hey, I realize there are 3 Pinter plays on Broadway right now. I've never done Pinter. Let me like pull up some Pinter and like do some research and learn like what that acting style is. And let's see if I can discover that. Yeah. Or going online and just like watching videos of different casting directors talking about what they like and what they don't like and what they do, because that's also part of it. We know that there are certain directors that like these acting styles over these acting styles. We know there are certain casting offices that like this type over that type. We know there are certain composers that write for this kind of voice instead of that kind of voice. Where do you fit in that world? If you haven't done that research, you haven't explored and played and made the mistakes at home, the place you don't want to make those mistakes is the audition room. Yeah, so it's like, it's finding creative and fun ways to also do the work so that, like other artists, we're doing our work all the time, every day. It just becomes part of what we do. So, yeah, hopefully that's it. Yeah. Was that 2 things? That was 2 things. That was like 30.
It was just, you know, advice to an actor who's stuck at a plateau in their career. So, you know, you're basically saying that we want to constantly work on our craft and find ways to include it. Is there anything else that you wanted to say with that?
You know what, too? Like, I guess also figuring out like what that plateau is. Like, is it a plateau as in like I'm booking the same kinds of roles? That may not be a plateau. That may be, oh, I've really honed in on what this brand is. Now the homework is, how can I make this brand work for this role, which isn't the type of role I normally play? How can I make it work for this role? Yeah. Or if the plateau is a financial thing, then like start trying to reach out for those jobs that pay a different pay scale, or start asking for a different pay scale in those negotiations. Or is the plateau, I'm just at a place right now where I'm just like, I'm not booking these gigs. Okay, let's go back first and evaluate the types of gigs that we're going in for. Are these the types of gigs that we actually do? Or am I a pop singer going in for classical musical theater? Like, what's actually happening there? Or I'm at a plateau because right now all the things that are coming down the pipeline don't fit what I do. Okay, great. Well, how about I take a class to figure out how I can figure out how to do what all these shows are requiring me to do. You know what I mean? Like, if all the shows are like, we need roller skaters, and you're like, I don't roller skate. You can either A, stay at a plateau and not roller skate, or B, take a class and be like, do I even want to roller skate? Yes or no? Nope, don't want to do it. All right, I'm cool, I'm fine. You know what I mean? So I think that's it too. Sometimes we feel stagnant, or we feel stuck, or we feel like lost, or like we're floundering, but we also haven't figured out what we're trying to do.
Yeah, so it's almost like doing a career assessment, like every like 6 months or something, looking and being like, am I doing what I want to do? Am I stuck? Because sometimes you don't even realize that you are in a plateau.
Right. Or sometimes you look in the mirror and you're like, dude, why am I still trying to be Jack in Into the Woods when I'm now 43? I need to be the baker. Oh, no, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes we get so stuck in like, this is what I do, and these are my audition songs, and this is my type, and this is my brand. And then we forget to reevaluate to see like, where am I now? or how is it being perceived now? And there are tons of companies like yours that's like, hey, let's take a step back and look at what you're doing and look at who you are and look at your materials and make sure that we're presenting the right thing. Maybe you're no longer tied with bleach alternative. Now you're actually straight up Febreze, like, or whatever it is. Like, we have to sometimes have an outside eye come in and like look at it and like help you evaluate. And if it's changing, then you need to like go back to the drawing board and figure out, now how do I embrace this change? Like, how do I dig in a different way based on this? I mean, like, I'm in my 40s now. I'm losing my hair. It's like a whole different ball game. Yeah. I'm no longer gonna play seaweed in hairspray. You know what I mean? So I have to embrace that and then be like, but what can I do? Oh, I normally have a very youthful sounding voice. Let me get into a speech class so I can figure out how to add a little more grounded gravitas to that, because I'm moving into a different world. And then trust the fact that it's going to take casting a little bit of time to get used to that, because on their papers and in their files, you're a seaweed and hairspray. They don't see you as a coal house and ragtime yet. Okay, let me go in and show you now what this coal house and ragtime is. And it may take 3 tries before you say, oh, okay, yeah, now I see it. You know what I mean? So, and we have to trust that too, you know? It's humans dealing with humans. And the only person that's in your head and in your brand and like in your home when you're working on things is you. And then you have to find the right way to present that. The first time you see a new commercial, it may not register in your head, but the third time you see that commercial, you find yourself singing the tune from the commercial, right? The same thing happens in the audition room. The first time you present something completely new, it may not register, but by the third time, we're like, oh, I get it. I see it now. So same thing.
Makes a lot of sense. Well,
yay.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we end this?
No. I'm good. I didn't get too nervous.
You're amazing. I mean, I just can't thank you enough on behalf of everyone listening to this. I mean, this is just like such a cool opportunity to be able to ask you these questions. You went into a lot of great detail. We have like some amazing little tidbits of information and really cool stories and stuff. And you know, the whole idea of how you were able to get your first 2 shows on Broadway without an agent, that's like super inspiring to people. And so I just really want to like thank you. This was excellent. Thank you so much.
Awesome. I guess if I wanted to add anything really fast, it's that I love sharing. I love giving information. I love helping. So if people do have questions, and they're specific, just reach out. Just reach out and I try to answer it as much as I can. Like my email inbox is always full of like crazy questions and things, and I try to answer most of them. So like, just reach out, use your resources. There are tons of resources out there. Use companies like your company, because like, it sounds like you're doing a really, really great thing. Yes, I stalked you online before I agreed yes to do this interview. Because I'm also very picky about companies that I will interview with, because I personally have to believe in what they're doing. If I don't believe in what they're doing, or I don't think that it's genuine or for all the right reasons, then I don't do it. Or if I feel that it's just self-serving, then I don't do it. The same thing with like workshops and master classes. If you ever see me teaching a workshop or a master class somewhere, it's because I believe in the work that the company is doing. And there are lots of times that I've turned down very high paying workshops and master classes because I don't believe in the way the company is run, or how much they're charging clients, or what their clients are getting out of it. So I'm very picky and selective. So I thank you for doing what you're doing, because I think it's great. I think it's amazing. And I'm more than willing to share with you or with your people or whatever, just because I believe in what you're doing. So
thank you.
If I had to say anything else, it would be that.
I appreciate that.